I'm Stacy Grinsfelder.
And I'm Daniel Cantor.
And you're listening to True Tales from Old Houses, the mini-sode. Hi, Daniel.
Hi.
How's it going?
It's going.
I know that you've been on the road all day today, so you're probably pretty worn out.
I'm a little wiped. I feel like I've just been on the road for a month. But yes, I got home from the lake today, so I'm back in my environs and happy to be here.
So your dreams of going back to being a homebody have not yet come true?
No, but I think today marks the beginning, I hope, at least for a few weeks. I have stuff to do.
Well, I do want to hear all about it, but before we launch into today's mini-sode, I do want to say a special thank you to our sponsors, Sutherland Wells and Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
Thanks to both of you.
All right, so you're home, and before we talk about that, I have a little bit of episode follow-up. So we did the Lustron episode, and then we did a mini-sode, and then we just recently talked about our book, and we hadn't had much follow-up on the Lustron episode yet, but I think it's because not everybody had been listening to it by that time. And they have now. And a bunch of people have listened to the episode. They're really excited about it. So we've been getting more and more feedback. And one of those messages came from Wilma. She sent a message through the website.
Wilma.
And she and her friend looked at the interactive map that I included in the show notes and found Lustron homes in their area in Massachusetts. So she said she and her friend had driven around and located the two and checked them out. She said one was very different, but one of them, I think, still looked like a Lustron home. So I thought that was really fun.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for letting us know, Wilma.
And I don't think that I mentioned it when I was talking about the show notes. I think I intended to put maybe the Wikipedia or something in there that had all of the list of the Lustron homes. But what I ended up finding was so much better, which is this interactive map that I was talking about.
Yeah.
And you basically just look at the map and it shows where all the Lustron homes are, and you can zoom in and zoom out and you can get really close to, and then all of the Lustron homes are listed by address and picture. I mean, it's a little creepy, quite frankly. I looked in my area. I knew there would be some, but I thought it was interesting that all of them were in the Niagara Falls region. So I'm in Buffalo, and the region itself is kind of long and narrow, with Niagara Falls being up at the top near the Canadian border, and then it kind of follows along Lake Erie and goes south. And there weren't any south. There was one in like a tiny little town that had been moved or relocated, or they've lost track of it or whatever. It's no longer available. But otherwise, there were just, I think, 3 or 4 maybe in the Niagara Falls region.
Very interesting. I wonder if that's like related to whatever contractor builder was putting the houses up. Because like it was such an odd way to build that there must have been specially sort of trained people, right?
I honestly have no idea. I thought it was more related to the types of work that was available at that time. Like down south, it seems more like farmland. Up there, it was a little bit more industrial. Yeah, I don't have an answer, but I thought it was interesting.
Interesting. Well, I like that we're once again leaving like an open end for more Lustron information. We've really become Lustron influencers.
I think if we wanted to do a niche of a niche of a niche, we could start a new podcast that was only about Lustrons.
Perfect plan.
Yeah, I think it might have to be a limited series, right?
I don't know. I mean, the evidence so far shows it's an endless well.
People are interested. Yeah, people are interested. The other thing I just wanted to remind people that the book giveaway is still going on. So
Yes.
Scott and I are giving away 2 signed copies of our book, The Case for Historic Windows, The Truth About Energy Efficiency in Old Windows. And that giveaway is live on the website, truetalesfromoldhouses.com/giveaway.
Nice. Now, have you signed your copy already?
I have not. But I should have mentioned too that this giveaway started the 19th and it runs all the way through June 7th. So I do have time to sign my copies and get them sent to the winners, the 2 winners.
And have you been practicing your signature like in middle school?
My signature is a disaster, but I do write. Yeah, it's horrible. I have terrible, terrible handwriting. What is your handwriting?
I didn't know that. Oh, because we're both lefties.
We're both lefties.
Yeah. I always thought my penmanship was kind of fine, but Brad begs to differ, so I don't
Really?
I guess it's not great.
Mine's awful. And when I was in elementary school, where you're learning penmanship, it was readable. It was definitely legible, but I got in trouble Well, I guess I got marked down sometimes, especially in cursive. We learned cursive because I couldn't slant it the right way. Because
Right.
I'm
It's
a lefty,
hard.
not a righty. And it was so annoying.
I know. Right there with you.
Yeah, we were so discriminated against.
We really were. Also, I don't know if have we ever talked about this on the podcast? Well, anyway, one of my favorite factoids is that lefties have a shorter life expectancy because we're more likely to die by accident because we're living in a world designed for right-handed people. We are also more likely to be president of the United States, so there's that.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, so it's not entirely a left-handed pity party.
Oh, no. I take the shorter life expectancy for the other benefits.
Right.
I think we're very cool and interesting.
Huh. So what has been going on? You said you were just at the lake.
I was just at the lake. You know, it's kind of funny at the lake. Like, this is the beginning of the season. So like any seasonal property, I'm sure it's like at the beginning, you kind of have your little to-do list of things that were left hanging last year, whatever. So yeah, we kind of took care of some little things, but we're definitely moving toward like not having to renovate when we're there. I mean, we already are there. Like, we don't have to be doing these things, but we want to.
So last year you did the ceilings in the bedrooms. You reversed the planks in the ceilings and planed those off and then put them back up. And also, I think Brad or maybe you or both did a laundry shed.
Yeah, that was mostly Brad and I believe a nice Amish man who built the shed.
How did that fare over the winter?
Great.
Do you know? Oh,
Great.
Perfect. I was a little worried.
Me too.
I'm a worrier, but yeah, that's great.
Yeah, like there's all kinds of things with properties like that that just feel wrong, like leaving a washer and dryer outdoors over the winter. But apparently, if you drain them and, you know, do what I'm not exactly sure what he did for prep, but they power up just fine.
Well, good.
They work. So yeah, that's worked out well. Yeah, this time we took off. There was an old patched over window that they clearly just used like scrap wood. So there were these huge gaps like right into the wall. We tore all that off, replaced it with new tongue and groove.
That was on the back of the house near the kitchen and the bathroom? Is
That's
that right?
correct, Stacy.
Okay.
Yes. Right side. Yeah. So we took care of that. We painted the porch floor.
Oh, how did that go? This was the first time you'd used linseed oil paint.
I had a momentous moment in my old house renovator life of first linseed paint experience.
Okay. How did it go?
Well, so I got there. Brad had done the first floor porch.
Okay.
It was still pretty shiny. And I think he had done it the day before, like shiny, like wet.
Yes.
He had done like half of the second floor. And then he was telling me all about it and that he was finding it sort of challenging. And I was like, well, did you do this? Did you do that? You know, because I've interviewed Michiel. So like, you know, I know all
fresh
about
off
it.
of our
Right.
interview. Yes. With Michiel Bruns.
So I'm just like backseat driver, having never touched the stuff, you know. Did you get the flattening brush? Which actually he did not. But in any event, he let me do the second half of the second floor porch so I could see
what it was like.
How easy or difficult it was. I will say this. I think that the idea that like out of the can, you're just going to be great with it is perhaps a little overstated. I would say there is a learning curve. It is different than other paint products that we're used to using.
Yeah.
So I guess jury's out on kind of how I feel about it. I feel like I was starting to kind of get the hang of it. I think our mix was a little thick. So like when I had to refill the can, I definitely used a little bit more oil and I feel like that helped, but just not totally sure yet.
Yeah.
I mean, it is the trade-off of you have to develop a little bit of a skill to use this product in a way that is not true of modern petrochemical paints that we're all used to. But if the benefit is as promised, which is basically that this thing will not peel and eventually it may sort of wear thin and we can retouch it, but like it's a finish that's here to stay. Assuming that pans out, then like, yeah, totally worth it. But it's weird. It takes a bit. Is that how you feel?
Well, yeah, because it's all time up front and then hopefully no time on the back end of it. But I've been using it a bunch for windows and I really like it. But I did start on some windows that I care very little about, just for the pure
Don't tell them.
experience. Oh, don't talk about my windows. Is that what?
Well, no,
don't talk about my windows. That
not in front of the windows.
Oh, not in front of the windows. Well, the good news is the windows behind me are not even here,
okay.
so
So
they will not
openly.
be deeply offended. Yes, but Yeah. So it did take some, I don't know. It seemed to be pretty straightforward. It was just the drying part that took a little bit longer, which I expected, even with using it very thin. But I really like the way it dries. When it's dry, and it is really nice.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing it when it's like really dried out and we can use it again and everything.
It's also been so humid here. So really, you're at the lake. It was extremely humid. You had some pretty high highs, low lows. So
mostly low. Like it was a little too cold to be trying to do it, especially when you started. I think it was in the like low 50s and it's really supposed to be 60 and above, but not more than 85 or something. Anyway, I think part of the challenge may have just been like that it was such a large surface area. I can picture it being a little easier for like trim or window sash or something like that. But for just a big floor to do it, because, you know, if you're using a modern paint, you might roll it even or roll a back brush or something. You know, none of those things apply here. So you're using an odd brush that you're not really used to. And yeah.
So how many coats did you get down?
1.
Okay. The first coat is the hardest. It gets easier from there.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, because it really soaks in. There's lots of flashing. You're like, oh, this does not look good. And then it gets better.
Yeah. We were finding it, I think, mostly just hard to spread, but it did seem like the second coat was going to spread a lot easier. I'm really glad that I finally tried it just because I feel like I've spoken so much about it, like I know anything and never touched the stuff. But now I have.
There's a first time for everything. And I think it might be nice to, even though it is a large expanse, you've got the floorboards there, it might actually be nice to start with that because you're going to put the 2 or 3 coats or whatever down eventually, and then there'll be rugs. And so there's lots of room for both error, but also you'll really get a feel for using the product because you have to do so much so much area.
Yeah, I'm very interested to see how it'll wear. For the background here, so we put in this is a new porch floor. It is fir. We did not stain it. We did seal it with very old water locks, like 50-year-old can of water locks.
But I gave you a lot of heartache, a lot of trouble about that.
I know, which is still in the house, which means he left it there over the winter and it froze, which I probably happened repeatedly before I got it. So who knows? It worked. It also wore off. But I will say, like, talking to other people, because this is a thing at the lake, you do anything outside the 4 walls of your house and you have 25 conversations with different people about it. So every single person is like, oh, our porch, I mean, it's every year we have to do this or whatever. I'm about to replace it for the second time in 20 years and whatever. So I think it is just a harsh climate.
Yes.
But yeah, I think between the age of the water logs, Brad said we did 3 coats. I don't remember. And just the climate, it just, a lot of it kind of just wore off. But I'll admit, he sanded the first floor to get down to full bare wood. But the whole reason I thought that the linseed paint would be a good product for this was so we did not have to do that. So then for the second floor, we didn't sand. And I think it spread a little bit better.
Well, it makes sense.
I don't know. I know tung oil and linseed are different, but it's like effectively we've primed with oil.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say it makes sense because downstairs you would be working that first coat into bare wood, which would be very dry, for lack of a better word. And then upstairs, you'd already have something that penetrated it. So you'd be it wouldn't have to penetrate as far. And therefore, it wouldn't feel like you were dry brushing as much as it does on the first floor.
Exactly. Anyway, it was interesting.
Okay. We're on the same page there.
Yeah. What else can I possibly say about Pete? I will say it looks beautiful. He chose like a very dark brown. And I know brown is maybe not the most popular, but it's very striking. I like it much more than the rougher. It was just so orange.
I was actually with him when he chose that paint. I don't know if you know that.
I don't think I did know that.
Yeah. So we were together when he purchased that and he showed me the brown and I thought it was really pretty too.
Okay.
All good.
Well, thank you for supporting him in that moment so that I could support him later.
I had nothing to do with the choice, but I agree that it is a nice color.
Your taste is always a welcome opinion. So what is happening over there?
Well, you know what? I do want to tell you, but we should take a quick break first.
A break. We should take a break.
Let's do it. True Tales from Old Houses is supported by Sutherland Wells. All of Sutherland Wells products are handcrafted in Providence, Rhode Island, with the highest quality, sustainably grown tung oil. Tung oil, which is native to China, has been used for centuries as a durable finish for wood, metal, and stone.
Unlike polyurethane, tung oil finish penetrates the surface of the wood, so it flexes and contracts as the conditions change. That makes it the perfect pre-finish or protectant for everything from fine furniture to window sash and sills.
Now, I've used so many Sutherland Wells products, but now is the time of year where I pull out my trusty Clarabelles, mix it with the oil primer, and I just finished a paint project on the back of my sleeping porch. That oil primer with the Clarabelles penetrates so deeply, and it really makes the top coat smooth as silk. But whatever you're looking for, Sutherland Wells has an entire product line. So if you need something for siding, hardwood floors, furniture restoration, cutting boards, you name it, they've got it.
To learn more about the complete product line, please visit Sutherland Wells, that's WELLES, SutherlandWells.com. And to save 10% on your first order, use the coupon code TRUETALES.
True Tales from Old Houses is also supported by Noonan Heritage Craftworks. You may know Joseph Parenti from Instagram for his work with historic exteriors in the Pittsburgh area. He's now extending his offerings to homeowners across the United States with Noonan Heritage Craftworks.
We all know the challenge of finding the right help to restore and maintain your old house. Things like, where do you even start? What materials and methods should you use? Who can you trust? Joseph is here to help you with this.
You can schedule a phone call, a video conference, or an email consultation with Joseph to talk through your exterior project and help you game plan. So whether you need to prepare a scope of work or just a second set of eyes to help compare estimates or to figure out the right questions to ask vendors, Joseph can provide unbiased guidance to help you steer clear of pitfalls and ensure success.
To learn how Noonan Heritage Craftworks can work with you, visit our special landing page at Noonan Craftworks, that's NOONAN, noonancraftworks.com/truetales.
We're back.
And we're back.
So you asked me what I have been up to. Well,
updates, please.
Yes. A whole lot more of the same. You know, I'm still trying to get the house ready and doing a lot of everything. But I'm honestly kind of starting to hit the wall, but I'm holding steady. I think I told you in a previous episode, I said, the crash is going to be pretty big. But for now, I am riding the wave.
Yes, you really predicted it.
Let me just say the waves are getting smaller.
Okay.
I'm on my boogie board, getting ready to hit that sandbar instead of enjoying a big wave out there in the ocean. But as if I didn't have enough to do, I had a funny story that I wanted to tell you. Well, not even a funny story, just a story I wanted to tell you about windows. Always about windows.
Okay. I'll take a funny or just not funny story about windows.
Or just story.
Any story.
So my friend Steph is a realtor, and she asked me if I knew anyone who could fix a window. And it was a broken pane of glass, and it was actually a house that's right around the corner from mine. So I said, well, show me what it is, and maybe I'll take a look. And so she sent me a picture from, I think, the exterior. And I said, if I have to use a ladder, I don't know. And I didn't know anybody offhand that she could just call and would come fix this. So I said, well, let me see. Maybe I can do it. It's just right around the corner. So I ran over there. She was there. And sure enough, it was real easy to get to from the inside of the house. How when you're trying to understand how a window works and somebody who's not really fully into windows isn't sure how to tell you how it works?
Yes.
It was one of those situations. So I said, you know what? I'll just pop it out. I'll take it. Here's my hourly rate. You can bill him, pay me. It shouldn't take longer than, I think, an hour to an hour and 15 minutes. And I was being generous because I could actually just pull that window out. So she said, oh, can I watch you? And I said, well, of course, that'd be fine. So we arranged for me. I went and I got all these tools and I brought everything over, and I was just going to do it all there right on the bedroom floor because nobody's in that house right now. And it wasn't a lead paint risk. It was an unstained or an unpainted window. It was stained. And the actual, he already had a piece of glass. I was like, oh, this is a slam dunk, right? So I pull the window out and I start the process. And then I go to set the glass in, which I always check it first before I do any bedding because I want to make sure the glass fits. Sure enough, the glass is just a little too small. It's just narrow. It's just too narrow. There's just not enough room to bed it properly. And so I said, we're going to have to go get a piece of glass. Steph took me to the hardware store. I said, you know what? I'm just going to have it cut because it was kind of cold that morning. And I said, I don't really want to cut glass because it's cold and it's probably just going to be a big pain. And, I don't want to do it. So we'll just run over to the hardware store. Since he's going to pay for this anyway, we'll get it cut. I'll bring it back. I get my measurements and I go back to the hardware store and I ask them if they can cut glass. And I've had glass cut here before. And he went over to the cutter and I told him what I wanted as far as measurements. He said, the standard answer that I get at hardware stores, are you sure that's what you want? Yes, I'm sure that's what I want.
Did they add little lady at the end or
They did
implied?
Not add little lady at the end. So I tell him the measurements. He cuts it. He measures it. It's wrong.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. And I said, well, that's going to be too big. That's not going to work. And he's like, but that's what you asked for. And I said, no, it actually is not what I asked for. And so he cut it again. And he tried to use the slider and he tried to break it and it wouldn't break. And it's like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with this glass. So I said, well, try it again. And he tried it again and he got the piece of glass and it was still a little off. Like it was almost like he'd cut it as not a trapezoid. Like
square.
It wasn't square.
Yeah. This just happened to me too.
Did it really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Weird.
So I was like, well, it's probably gonna work. And I was just so annoyed. I'd been there for 25 minutes waiting for him to like putz around with this glass. It took a long time because he had to both be condescending and cut it wrong 3 times.
Right.
I said, well, yeah, I'll take
at the hardware store.
Yeah. I had him wrap it up because I thought, well, it's probably going to be okay, or I can just nip a little bit off the, one edge or whatever. And this was after I'd asked him to fix another piece because he'd left a big tag on it at the end. I was like, dude, this isn't going to work.
Bro.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wrapped it up, took it back to the house, and it just wasn't going to work. And I said, and I cannot go back to that hardware store. I just can't do it.
This has turned into such a pain.
So this has been at least an hour and a half by this time, still no glass in. And I said, I'm going to take this window over to my house. Cause remember, it's right around the corner. I said, I'm going to cut glass. And Steph said, oh, I really want to watch you cut glass. Can I come? And I said, yeah, no problem. So we go over there. I broke 5 pieces of glass.
This window did not want to be fixed.
It did. I think it was fighting back. So here's Steph. She's like, oh, I feel like I'm watching a master at work, before all heck broke loose. And I'm like, yeah, this is how it works. I broke 5 pieces of glass. So finally, I said, Stephanie, I think that I'm just going to send you on your way. I'm going to fix this window. And then I'm going to call you when it's done. And then I'll take it back over and reinstall. So I did. Everything went smoothly from there. So it was either Stephanie was jinxing me or the window was fighting back. I don't know what the answer is here.
I mean, Stephanie's the common denominator, not to throw stones.
She would think that is so funny. But yeah, so it took me, I think, to do an hour and 15-minute project. I think I was in it maybe 3.5, closer to 4 by the time it was all said and done. And I only charged for an hour and a half.
The classic old house way.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I have a question.
Okay.
About glass cutting.
Yes.
Is it cheaper for you to just buy, like, whatever the dimension of the glass before it's cut and then cut it yourself?
Usually, yes. Yes. It's more cost effective because oftentimes you'll buy a sheet of glass and then you'll pay per cut.
Right.
Sometimes, depending on who's cutting the glass. Now, the benefit to having it cut is that, of course, it's done for you. So that's a convenience factor. But sometimes if there's a little bit of waste too, then you don't have to deal with that because you might buy one that's pretty close and you're going to end up having this strange little piece that's like 4 inches by 27 inches. And you're probably not going to be using it.
And then you keep it for 4 years thinking maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I keep all those for the workshops. But you could get large glass and then cut it yourself. Now, it gets a little unwieldy because I usually cut in place. And so when I said I broke glass, I broke 5 pieces of glass. It was all just scrap glass. So it wasn't anything new that I had bought. I wasn't upset about the glass breaking. It was just frustrating to keep breaking glass in front of someone else. And then also just not being successful. But I just cut it in place. So I just lay the glass over the pane.
Very cool, by the way.
That is the time saver. Well, thank you. Thank you.
It's pretty slick. to watch Stacy cut glass in place. Just
So
drop
in
it right
theory,
now.
well, thank you.
So
Thank
impressive.
you.
Okay, sorry.
Unless you were with me the other day and then it was just ridiculous.
The fact that the success rate exists is impressive enough. So you're allowed to fail every now and then.
Well, I appreciate the grace given. But if you're looking at a window that's maybe a 3/3, or I'm sorry, a 6/6 or something. So you have one sash that has 6 panes. You could get one large pane of glass and actually just freehand cut all 6 of those panes. You would do your vertical cuts first, and then you would do your horizontal cuts, and you could just and that would be so much cheaper than having 6 panes of glass cut.
Right. This is interesting because I'm pretty certain, I don't want to commit, but I am almost certain that at my local hardware store where I usually go to get glass, they charge like per square inch of what you want. But that means that it actually is a lot cheaper to have them cut it because you're not paying for the waste. I've gone down this road with them because I've been like, what if I just buy like a 3x3 foot piece? And they're like, oh, you don't want to do that. And then half the time they'll cut something that they were able to use a scrap piece and then they don't charge me sometimes. I don't know.
I don't have an answer for you. All I know is I do a small chain hardware store here in my town. And then I've also had it cut at Lowe's. And basically you just buy the piece of glass. It's already packaged.
Yeah.
At least at Lowe's, it's packaged. And then they open it up and cut it. And then at my local hardware store, they just have it in these little slots. And each size of piece is priced. And then you have to pay for that piece of glass. And then the cuts.
Interesting. Yeah.
But it's usually only 2 cuts. I mean, if I'm doing it for me, if I'm talking about that 6/6 situation where you have 6 panes of glass, that'd be a lot of cuts.
Yeah. I can't possibly do that math. 4? Well, I guess I would say ask the store what will be your cheaper option maybe. Because cutting glass is not that hard, but I guess the benefit to having them do it is if they screw it up, you're not going to pay for the screw up.
Right.
So interesting.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Food for thought.
And the glass I ended up breaking, I was cutting small panes out of large panes. So it was worth the risk to me because I still, even though I broke the glass, I still had leftover large enough pieces that I can use it for something else. So it was one of those situations where I was kind of weighing the benefit of doing it myself or getting it. And it wasn't special glass and it wasn't a special window.
I did a really silly thing about glass related.
What did you do?
So I was down in Brooklyn and I was staying at my friend Juliet's house. And there's a house like 2 doors down that just sold. It's an old brownstone, cool house. So the people were like classic Brooklyn fashion, just like all the stuff kind of spilling onto the sidewalk and, everything's $1 or whatever. So they did this for a couple days and then they just truly decided like, take whatever you want. So they had all this stuff out and it's Brooklyn, so people take it. And one of the things that was out was a pretty big pane of glass, just clear glass. And all the other things, the most hideous coffee table you've ever seen, all these other things got taken. And this glass was just sitting there for like 4 days.
Oh, wow.
Just leaning on the wall right on the sidewalk. And so sure enough, when I, went to leave Brooklyn, I put the dog in the car, walked back half a block and took that nice big piece of glass. And now it's in my kitchen, ready for my windows.
How did you fit it with the dog? Your dog must be a very good traveler.
I just put it in the trunk kind of vertically against the back seats and then my suitcase against it. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm pretty good at packing a car because I tend to accumulate.
You tell me this whole story and all I want to know is like what happened to the dog whenever you had the glass in the car?
Just hanging out. He is so tired right now because he swims at the lake. It's like the only place he swims, but he loves it. He'll just do it forever. And I'm like weirdly proud.
Millie loved to swim.
Yeah. Labs. A good classic lab.
She was a good swimmer. And I do have, last summer when I took her for one of the window workshops, that first night when everybody comes in and we tell them, give them the lay of the weekend, I took her there and she loved it. She went and swam down in the lake. And actually, she kind of fell into the lake. When she was young, she used to, jump off piers and she had so much fun and she very energetic. But yeah, when I took her last summer, she just kind of flopped into the water. And then from there, she could swim.
Yeah, that's kind of what Benji does. He does like this excited, it is almost like a jump, but off of basically there's like docks that kind of go out into the water, which he likes to have this like intrusive thought that he's going to jump off the dock, but he won't jump off the dock. So I know better now. But then this morning, I threw it really far out and like
a toy or something.
Yeah, there's
or
always,
stick.
I found this weird toy at the dollar store that he loves. So I threw it probably a little further than I should have, but he doesn't care. He's so brave. I feel really proud when I watch him swim. And then he tried to get back by jumping onto a dock.
Oh.
And it's like, sir, you could jump off the dock, but you do not have the upper body strength to hoist yourself back onto the dock. So then I had to come like pick him up by the elbows and he was all like jazzed about it. It was really fun. He's so cute.
Oh, that is really cute. Gosh, that makes me miss Millie. She was such a good swimmer, such a good buddy to take places and have a good time. Yeah.
Have I ever told I grew up with labs?
I don't think you ever told me that.
2.5 labs. One was only half. But none of them swam ever.
Really?
Hated the water.
Oh my goodness.
Did you like teach her in any way or did she just naturally want to do it?
I got her in California and we lived near a river. And when I took her there, she got so excited and she jumped in. And we used to have these things. They were called the flume, I think I told you about once before, where the flume is like a ditch that brings water from the top of the mountain down to the bottom of a mountain. And in logging days, they would fell logs and then they would put them in the flume and the flume would get the logs down to the bottom and then they would take the logs and use them for building. So that's why the flume was there.
Like an amusement park ride.
Yeah. Except It's very, very dangerous for people because there are all these bars on it. So if you were trying to float the flume, which some people did, there were places where you could float the flume. I never did it.
Like in tubes?
Yeah. But then there would be these bars that, of course, if you were not safe and careful, they would hit you either in the forehead or in the neck. And that would be a bad deal. Plus, about every half mile or every quarter mile, there were nets. And those nets were to catch wildlife like deer or whatnot that fell into the flume so that they could get out of the flume.
Oh.
Pretty wild.
That's rather darling.
Yeah. So when I had Millie, the first 2 weeks that I had her, we took a hike up by the flume and she jumped in the flume. She had a little vest on that had not a life vest, but it was like a little pack vest. And it had a handle on the back of it. And she just jumped in and I panicked because I was like, my dog just jumped in the flume. And I would happen to be hiking with a friend and he was down further. And he was a real strong, like burly guy. He and his wife were hiking with me. And he just reached his paw out there and grabbed that handle on the back of Millie's vest and jerked her out of the flume. And I was like, oh, thank you. I am so, I can't believe that happened. Oh my gosh. Because I didn't even know Millie very well yet then.
Right.
And so I let her go and she jumped right back in again. And so he had to go rescue her twice. So I put her leash back on. But yeah, she loved swimming. And
oh, that's so cute.
Where we lived by the river, there was a bunch of rocks too that created this real narrow, like a water slide, a natural water slide. And so she would go up to the top of that and follow the kids down. They'd either go down by themselves or they'd have floaties on or something like that. And she would stand on the top of the rock and watch them and then run down and follow them. She loved it.
That's so sweet.
Yeah.
She's such a nanny dog.
She was a total nanny dog. Yeah. All right. Well, we have to say goodbye for today. We're out of time.
Right.
My window story probably took way longer than it should have.
Nonsense. I mean,
you were here for it?
That's always the way.
Yeah.
You think it's half an hour, it's 7 hours and 25 broken pieces of glass.
Right.
And on that note.
Next week, we have an episode. Our guest is Olivia Wood. She's someone that we met at the House of Brinson post-pandemic. Looking forward to hearing her story, and we'll share that episode with you then.
Yes, it's a wonderful interview.
Thank you for listening to True Tales from Old Houses. Until next time.
See you next week.